everybody, and welcome to another week of lifespan development. This week we're going to be learning all about adolescence, and on this slide I'm going to answer some of your questions from last week and 2 weeks ago for middle childhood. I got a couple of from then as well. And I'm going to start off with your class questions. My biography is over 400 pages long. Is it okay if I submit more of an outline bulleted brainstorm than an actual draft? I strongly advise against doing that. You want to submit as full a draft as possible. The reason is, what is going to happen is you are going to submit a draft and then I am going to comment on it. I am going to fill your paper full of comments of how to improve this, where different types of theories might fit, that kind of thing. Really to help you and set you up for success in the final project, because I don't expect you to be able to just do this on your own. If you give me a bulleted list, I won't really be able to provide that kind of commentary to you because I won't know what arguments you're going to be trying to make. So I strongly suggest you do put your paper in some type of narrative format and you actually write something. Is the draft of our lifespan case study going to be peer reviewed? Okay, so this is how it's going to work. You're going to turn in your draft. I'm going to comment on your draft. You're going to rework your draft, and then you're going to submit a new draft for peer review in a couple of weeks. So a draft will be peer reviewed, but not necessarily this draft. When will the final draft be due? So the final project, your final paper, is due December 4th. Will the final exam be the same format as the midterm? And will it cover material, and it will cover material past the midterm, right? Okay, so yes, it's going to be the exact same format as the midterm. I don't know that it'll have the exact same number of questions, but it'll have the multiple choice fill in the blank typey questions, and then the short answers, and then the apply your knowledge questions. And for the most part, it will only cover from after the midterm, so adolescence through late adulthood. That said, there will be questions that might cover some of the earlier before the midterm stuff, but it'll be like, please apply the entirety of Piaget's theory to the lifespan, taking me through each stage. So there won't be anything that's exclusive to content that we covered before the midterm, but you will need some of the knowledge that we covered before the midterm in addition to what we're learning now. How do we find out what we got wrong on the midterm? If you would like feedback on your midterm, just email me and I will give you feedback. I will send you a copy of your midterm with my comments on it. I am perfectly happy to do so. The reason I don't is because most students do not want feedback, do not read the feedback, and there are 55 of you and one of me, so that's quite a bit of work for no payoff if nobody's going to be reading it. If you want comments, I'm always happy to give you comments. I have many comments in my brain as I grade, so yes, happy to do so. Just email me. Okay, so that's it for the class questions. We're now going to move on to the content questions, starting with, I'm wondering how frequently adults engage in private speech. A lot. So think about how often you talk to yourself. Adults engage in private speech almost as much as younger children. We just have learned to hide it in public, shall we say. We don't talk to ourselves in front of other people, but we still talk to ourselves just as much. Are theory of mind and metacognition closely related? Yes, they are. So metacognition is how we think about thinking, how we organize things, that kind of thing. And theory of mind is the to understand what other people are thinking. So yes, you're still thinking about thinking, and yes, they are very closely related, and generally you need theory of mind to have metacognition. What is the standard definition of what is considered moral? There isn't one. Morality is entirely relative. The only moral that we seem to have is the biological imperative. So the biological imperative is to ensure the success of your genes moving forward. Basically, don't harm small children. And try to make sure that children will survive and will be able to continue the species. Beyond that, there are no cut and dry morals. Different cultures have different morals, different families have different morals, different belief systems. There's no like standard morals. And that's actually why there is an entire academic discipline related to ethics and morality and philosophy and all of that. How do boys internalize body image dissatisfaction differently than girls? So girls tend to focus on wanting to be small and thin and petite and willowy and have that kind of dancer's figure, whereas boys tend to want to be big and buff and muscly and strong. Your body image is related to what you want to do with your body a lot of the time. So if you want to do gymnastics or dance, that's a specific type of body. Cheerleading, it's a type of body, that kind of thing. And the same goes for boys. If you want to be a big, strong, manly man, you're going to want to look different than if you want to be a dancer or an actor or so on and so forth. So it really, boys internalize their body image slightly different in terms of what the ideal body type is. But the actual internalization process is exactly the same for boys and girls. It's entirely based on what you want to do, what your ideal self is, and the influences around you telling you what the ideal body type is. Is every homeschool kid taught by their parent, or do parents hire a teacher to teach different subjects? It depends on the kid, it depends on the age, that kind of thing. So there are homeschooling groups where different parents will teach different subjects. So one parent might have a degree in botany, so she might teach the science stuff, whereas another parent has a degree in English, so he'll teach the English stuff. But you can also do things like once you get to later middle school and high school, there's a thing called dual enrollment. So you are officially a homeschooled child, and then you are also taking community college classes. The youngest I know of people doing this is about 12 years old. So you are getting college credit and you are getting course credit, but you are also getting homeschool credit for those courses. And then sometimes, you are taught by your parent. Sometimes you take online classes. The state of Florida has a really big online high school program that is open to the entire nation. If you're not in Florida, you do have to pay for it. But so there's different ways of doing it depending on the kid, the parent, the situation, all of that. Which type of schooling do you think is the best fit for a child to be involved in? Public or private or being homeschooled? I think it depends on the kid and it depends on the situation. So some kids really thrive in public schools, but other kids don't because they're being bullied or they're just overwhelmed by the sheer numbers of kids. They're falling through the cracks. The teachers can't provide them with enough attention. So then maybe private school is the best option. Other children thrive best in homeschooling situations where they're more able to explore their own interests and really go at it at their own pace and that kind of thing. So it really depends on the kid. Some kids would not do well in a homeschool environment at all because they need the teacher as the authority figure and they don't react well to having their parents teach them, or they just need a lot more peer interaction. So homeschooling, there is plenty of peer interaction for kids. But some kids do better in a busy environment where they're with their peers 24/7, in which case a public or private school might be the better choice. How is ADHD diagnosed? Is it through observation over time, or is there a test that was developed to test certain characteristics? It's both. So a child is diagnosed with ADHD. Generally, first they are referred. So a teacher or a parent will notice that the child seems to be struggling academically, usually having to do with being hyperactive or not paying attention properly or having a hard time switching from one subject to another or that kind of thing. And if it begins impacting their academic success, the teacher or the parent will quite often refer the child for a diagnosis. So they will be sent to the school psychologist for testing. And there are specific tests for ADHD that test different types of executive functioning. So first the teacher notices, and it also should be noted that generally they try and treat it in the classroom before referring for an official diagnosis, at least at the elementary and middle school levels. So the teachers will try different interventions in consultation with either school psychologist or maybe a special education teacher. Will try different things to help the child, and if those strategies are not working, then a referral for a diagnosis will be made. I hope that helped. I'm always around. If you have any questions, just email me, and I will see you next week.